also going to lower our business tax rate from 35% all the way down to 15%. That's going to be great.
You're going to have 60, 70, 80, 90% increases in Obamacare. We're going to repeal it, and we're going to replace it, and we're going to get you great, great health care at a fraction of the cost.
We're going to have jobs again, great jobs, not bad jobs, real jobs, and it's going to be something special.
Donald Trump promising a lot and promising to do it fast.
Tax reform, repealing and replacing Obamacare, job creation, just to name a few of his lofty goals. But which campaign promises are most crucial to igniting our economy? To our Fox Business All-Stars, David Asman, Lawrence Simonetti, and Dagen McDowell. Good to see you all here. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Where's the champagne? Right there. All right, well, we have to wait like 30 more minutes. Okay.
Yeah, very good.
But it's been a heck of a year. I mean, looking back, really, it's been about the election that really changed everything for these markets.
But looking forward as to what Trump has to do to get the markets really cooking, because we've had a nice bump, no question about it, since the election, but we could have a really substantial bump higher if he does the right thing. August 1981, that's when Ronald Reagan got the Tax Act passed. It was the Recovery Tax Act. If in the next 6 months, of course, that was about 6 months after Ronald Reagan took office, from then on, it was Katie barred the door in terms of new economic activity. We did have a recession because Volcker had to squeeze inflation out of the economy, but we don't have that problem right now. So if he gets a tax cut, significant tax cut, cutting corporate rate more than in half, cutting individual rates across the board, we could have the same entrepreneurial activity that we had all during the 80s and the 90s. It was only stopped with President Obama and a recession.
But, do not do a phase-in. They've got to make it retroactive to the beginning of the year.
So tax cut is the most important in your mind, David.
Not phased in, as Dagen just said.
I'm going with tax cut as well. It makes, if you have more money, you feel richer, you spend it on the economy, and you grow the economy, and they want 3 to 4% sustained growth. I think that's how we do it. The biggest way we do it.
Dagen, are you gonna echo tax cut as well?
In terms of the markets sustaining and holding up this massive rally that we had from the election, absolutely. But in terms of regulatory reform, something that Peter Morici told you on Mornings with Maria earlier this week, watch out for, you need to have leadership coming out of the White House on rolling back all these regulations, because again, if you let these departments get away from you and in terms of what they're doing to roll back these regulations, nothing will get done because it is Washington. So they've got to really be on top of that in the first 6 months.
How much of the confidence that we're seeing in the markets, and if I could put this one to you, Gary, is the fact that there's a businessman, a real estate mogul in the White House? I mean, that certainly that's got to be helping out.
100% of the move since the election is all emotion. It's basically optimism. Many people come on the network, call it animal spirits. There hasn't been anything fundamentally, as Rob Sechan was talking about earlier in the program, that's changed. And I would say, while tax reform is important, as far as the stock market is concerned, I think regulatory reform is the most important, because the market has already priced in now, especially when it comes to financial services, be it a change to Dodd-Frank, lessening up the regulatory environment for the banks. If that doesn't happen, and if that's not a top priority, the stock market will suffer.
But can I just say something? Markets don't see everything. Markets didn't see the 2008 and 9 collapse coming. Markets didn't see the spectacular growth that was coming from the Reagan years.
The markets
later
didn't see
but
Trump's
if I could just
election.
finish my point, the point is that right now we may be on the cusp of some tremendous technological revolution that none of us even know about. I mean, it could be virtual reality. It could be a whole lot of different things. We didn't see the technological revolution in 1981 when Reagan got that tax pact signed. But look what happened. The market didn't see it coming. The market was down until 3 years later. So the market is a great indicator, but it's not perfect.
Market sees something different. 2.1% growth since the recession. Between 01 and 07, it was 2.8% growth. So what we got in the last 8 years did not get the economy really growing at its potential. And another thing to keep in mind, you've had such a boost in confidence. Confidence can lift an economy. If you actually deliver, if you change your behavior based on how you're feeling, which consumers can do, we saw it after 9/11.
And CEOs.
We came out of a recession in November of 2001.
Thank you, Donald Trump, as he said in his tweet, right?
Right now.
But it was a lot of it was confidence, and I give President Bush credit for that in terms of how he spoke to the American people.
If you make a CEO of any size company, just like you make a consumer, feel comfortable that these are the rules of the game going forward, we're encouraging you to do as much as you can, spend your money, hire people. There's clarity out there. That's what's going to happen.
And not just the CEO.
But what's not clear, though, is interest rates and the rising environment that we may be in.
Well, in 1981, they were 18.6% for the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage.
So what does happen when if we start getting those multiple rate hikes?
Well, I don't think we're going to. I think much like 2016, there was an expectation that the Fed was going to raise rates. I think in the beginning of the year, it was either 3 or 4 times, depending on which survey you wanted to look at. I think 2017, what's going to end up happening is, yes, economic growth and optimism and confidence will be much greater here than it was. But remember, we've got the rest of the world. We've still got deflation concerns out of Europe. We still got much slower growth out of Asia. And the drag of lower rates and negative rates is going to limit the Fed to what they can do.
Gary, remember, the Fed believes that we're going to have slow growth for the next 3 years. I think the Fed is dead wrong, just as they've been wrong before.
By the way,
they may change their expectations.
You know what? They didn't even change their economic forecast based on what the market was saying. Better days ahead after the Trump election, and they didn't change. And the Yellen and company didn't change their.
What stands out to me, the most important thing in the last 2 weeks of the year, doesn't relate to the stock market. I have always believed the bond market is much smarter than the stock market. We've talked about this on air. The 10-year stopped going up in terms of yield and has actually gone down in price in the last 2 weeks. So the stock market got way ahead of itself in terms of the Trump victory. The bond market is taking us back to reality, which is, yes, there's a lot of optimism. Yes, there's a lot of confidence. But we're still not going to be printing 3% growth in the first or second quarter.
Hedge fund managers are reversing some of those bearish bets that they put on treasuries in just the last couple weeks of the year.
Because the confidence can create growth, but you're not going to be printing 3% growth in the first or second.
So there's going to be opportunity.
I want Yellen to raise rates a lot in the new year and have Trump tweet about her.
Get her out of there.
I love that.
Her term is up 1 year from his inauguration, so he's got her for a year.
Well, one thing's for sure is expectations are high heading into 2017. All right, David, Lauren, and Dagen, do not go anywhere. We have much more to discuss. Wall Street Week will be right back.